afterwards and get the whole intro. So for everyone who's here, welcome to the Eat for Life podcast, episode 22, your home for entrepreneurship, esports, education, and entertainment. One of your hosts, Marcus Howard.
It's your boy Chosen One. I'm in the building today.
And Derek, Mr. Dopework is in the building. We have a special guest, Marcus. What type of week is this?
This is education and esports week. It's a Blizzard Activision, it's a FaZe Clan week. It's a lot of stuff we're covering today. Honored to bring to everyone and share with all of you. James O'Hagan, who is the founder of the Academy of Esports podcast. He's the director of learning and digital engagement. I'm butchering the title, I think, over at Racine Unified School District. He's on the board for multiple organizations heavily involved in this community. Welcome to the podcast, James.
Hey, Marcus.
Welcome in, man. You know, we love having experts on Eat for Life. It helps us, it helps our audience. So welcome, James. All right, welcome. We're doing it proper this time. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you.
So James,
you just about nailed it, Marcus. It's Director of Digital and Virtual Learning. It's the longest title in the district. So no, I'm not superintendent, so I don't get that. I don't get that pay for having the longest title.
That's fine.
Can you talk about what it is you do to direct the role besides having the longest title in the district?
So outside of the podcast and consulting work that I do, as Director of Digital and Virtual Learning, I oversee our online learning program, I oversee our credit recovery program, I oversee all our libraries in our school district. I also oversee our esports programming. So there's a lot that goes into my job. I feel like sometimes I have to be a mental health expert a lot of times because a lot of the kids who come to us in need of virtual learning programs need an alternative outside of the traditional classroom. Of course, COVID changed all that up, but I get a lot of kids who are in and out of mental health care facilities, physical problems. So it's really I lovingly call my job the land of misfit toys, where we're all we all have our different needs and why we're here. But it's a fantastic experience. I love it.
You guys keep going. We're gonna echo. People on LinkedIn are telling us we're gonna echo, so I have to engineer at the same time. So forgive me. I got to get my ambidextrous work on. But that's really amazing, the work that you do. By the way, we always love the educators because this space needs more educators. So I'll just say me personally specifically. I know you have a relationship with Marcus and Derek, so obviously they got love too. But I just love educators because the space needs it so much. So thank you just from a general place of your work that you've chosen to do, because I think it'll help. It'll help the future generation of esports.
Well, the space that as far as esports goes, my involvement has been 6 years. So it's going back to when I was in Rockford, Illinois. And it was kind of just a passing conversation I had with somebody in the hallway about, hey, I saw this thing on 60 Minutes last night. Can we give scholarships for esports? And I said, I will find out. And it became like my calling at that moment. It was like I said, that right time, right moment. I've been a gamer for a long time. I brought games into the classroom when I was a teacher in the classroom. And so this opportunity, I just landed on it at the right time, and it ties in with all my passions. I'm intrinsically motivated around it. And so, yeah, it's been a real whirlwind, and it's great to be in this space because as we're seeing, I know some of the things we want to talk about today, but as we're seeing, there needs to be some accountability in the space. There needs to be, I think in some cases, a reckoning, because there are a lot of people in the space who are trying to profit off of kids and doing it in ways that if it was being done to their own kids, I hope they would have issues with the way that they're going about their business. So there's a lot in this space that needs positive adult advocates in it right now.
Yes, sir. Say it again. Yes, sir. I really agree with that.
Does that mean that you feel like, as a pioneer in the space isn't improving fast enough, or are we on par? For being a new industry, are we on par? Are we ahead of the game, behind the game?
I think educators who are involved in scholastic esports, at least at the K-12 level, I think at least we have the idea of, I hope that it's beyond the games. As educators, I hope we're thinking of This isn't just about putting kids in front of a computer and playing video games, because you're not going to get your budgets fulfilled to expand your program, grow your program, if you're looking at it that way. Our program in Racine is built around 5 things, and I tell people about this all the time whenever we want to build a scholastic esports program. We build it around redefining what athletic culture looks like, and even esports culture. We really need to start to redefine what these cultures look like. Not just in how we play the games and interact, but what our participants look like. I'm tired of looking at launches of new land centers, and there's nothing in there that is exciting or anything. And I look at the people who are in there, and it's the same group of white male teenagers or young men in that space. I'm not seeing diversity. I'm not seeing people of color enough in these opportunities. We need to diversify opportunities for student participation in school. Something for everybody. There should be something for every child, whether beyond the classroom. What do our extracurriculars look like? If you don't have something for everybody, you're not doing your job in what we would call a well-rounded education. Because those are the instances when kids start to put into practice, hopefully, what they're learning in the classroom in some way. Whether that's through leadership or collaboration or communication, those C's that people like to talk about. But also, we want to make sure that we're promoting good mental and physical health. A lot of people don't think about mental and physical health when we talk about gaming and gaming culture. And so, I was very excited years ago when Kobe Bryant had talked about the Mamba Academy and building in an esports space into the Mamba Academy. That to me was a proper sign of that. He at least his business entity had the idea that this can be something that exists within an athletic space because there does still need to be exercise training. This is training just like anybody else would if you take it seriously. But also the career and collegiate scholarship pathways. We're not just seeing STEM related things, we're seeing non-STEM related, especially for kids who want to get in and develop their brand, whether it's their personal brand or they want to develop like a brand, kind of like just around gaming culture that they love. And then we just need to honor the importance of play. We have done a horrible job in this country with play in the last 20 years, especially since No Child Left Behind was passed. Play and fun have really been sucked out of things in the name of, hey, we got to test these kids and make sure they can read right. I get that, but ultimately the work of childhood is play, and it doesn't just mean kindergarten or first grade. That means like middle schoolers and high schoolers. How are we getting them to play as well too? Again, it can't just be a sit in front of a computer or in a classroom for 6 to 7 hours a day and just regurgitating information. There has to be something that makes us feel, inspired or motivated or whatever it may be.
Here's my thoughts on that. First of all, I love it. But second of all, I gotta tell people, like, this has to be broken up, right? Like, education, like James and what educators do. And shout out to Alex Gibson over in Pennsylvania. I spoke at York School a few months ago, and there's some amazing educators. Yeah, some amazing educators out there. But that's like, esports should be a chapter, and I'm sure it is, in your curriculum, right? Like, it doesn't define the gaming experience. But if we're talking about the chapter of esports, I would like to say something that the American culture is not doing well. All right, and be a bit critical. Is we have to be able to draw the line between who's a content creator and who creates the content and who are the best in the games. It has to be. Like, there's a difference between being really popular in the NBA because you're a troublemaker or you're really competitive or whatever, and then being LeBron. There's two different things. Like, this line between, like, it all started 2-3 years ago when I saw the ESPN article where, like, they were saying, like, Ninja's the best player and all that. It all really started there. Like, and now you have groups like FaZe Clan who, like, I don't even know who's the best. I couldn't tell you right now who's the best. Like, I don't even know what player in there is nice at what game. I don't even know. Like, I couldn't even tell you who could beat somebody at Fortnite from FaZe Clan. Who could be? I can't even tell you. I keep up with it moderately, and they don't have anybody top.
The question is, does it matter though?
If you want it to be called a sport,
if success is money, right? And I'm able to make more money by doing the brand. Does it matter about being better or best? Like, I'm winning.
If it's called a sport,
games, I've taken video games and I've created an asset for myself that I'm making this much money and living like this off of video games. The other part of being the best doesn't matter anymore because I'm still the best at video game per se. I may not be the best at the actual mechanics of this game, but I'm better than you at video games because I'm able to make more money off of video games than you are. Even as you can do unstoppable combo in Mortal Kombat that I could never defeat, but I'm making more money than you on video games.
Well, then you're an entertainer, right? You're an entertainer. That's an entertainer. That's an entertainer. Like, I'm cool with that. We just got to call it that. That's entertainment, esports entertainment. The best is when I put you in a room with all these people, you come out on top. That's the best. Kobe said a long time. That's not about the money.
And he's walking away with more money is not on top.
No, not in the form of sport. People make more money that, as far as on the court goes.
Competition.
As far as on the court goes, right? Steph Curry has made way more than Michael Jordan. Is Steph Curry better than Michael Jordan?
But is he better at basketball?
Is he better at basketball than Michael Jordan? I'm asking you, is Steph Curry better at basketball than Michael Jordan? He made way more money than Michael Jordan in court as far as on the court goes. Is he better than he's better than Michael Jordan?
I got to ask a question to both of you though. Did you all see the Sports Illustrated cover with FaZe Plan?
I did.
How many gamers were on that cover?
There was like athletes, right?
How many professional gamers were on that cover?
Yeah, none. Right. That's
Ron Son.
Yeah.
And you had a bunch of they were influencers. They were
right.
Professional gamers.
Right.
Those were entertainers. And yet they were the ones who graced the cover of Sports Illustrated. They were the ones who are getting the deals. They're the ones who are getting because FaZe has become a brand.
Right.
These companies are literally now just becoming brands and influencers. The gaming is secondary in a lot of these things.
Cody says one thing. I would just want to mention this. Cody Davis off LinkedIn says, so under that logic that Derek has put out, Jake Paul is a better boxer than Canelo. Under that logic, has to follow that logic. Has to. I mean, no question. Jake Paul made $75 million that last fight. Canelo ain't got paid $75 million once. He's a better boxer?
Success is money. If success is money.
Success is defined as what you define it as. Some people define success at being the best at what we're competing in, the top person. That's what sport is. Nobody's competing in the Olympics for money right now.
So if I take that same thought process, I think of all of the cats that I know in the hood that are way better than Kobe Bryant at basketball, but they never went and made that money. But technically, from a basketball standpoint, they would have ran circles around.
They're supposed to go do the things that you have to do to get to the level.
But they're considered losers right now.
You have to go.
You have to go. They can't take care of their kids because they're still smoking reefer because they're, you know what I mean? Like they're still chasing a dream of not being successful, even though they were good at basketball, because they didn't make the money, not because their skills weren't on a certain level.
Yeah, so but nobody calls them. I'm sure when they play, I'm sure in the world of making money, maybe they're seen as losers or whatever. Like, I get that, and all decisions outside of the court are going to decide that. But in their context of playing basketball, I'm sure wherever they go, people don't finish playing. If they are better than Kobe Bryant, nobody leaves the court going, "You're a loser." Like, and they just played against them, and they're better than someone who's the best of the best of the best, sir. I don't think that they leave that situation. I haven't made as much money as Ninja. Anybody who's watching this, anybody in this room, we can play Dead or Alive right now. You won't leave it talking about I'm a loser. You'll talk about it when we're done. When we're done and all that, oh yeah, whatever, that chosen, whatever. When we're playing it, no, you won't be saying that. And that's what culture needs. Like, sports have that culture, and James brings up a great point with the Sports Illustrated cover, because that is problematic. That is problematic.
Well, and here's the other thing too. Here's the other problem I have with what we're going, what's happening in Scholastic. And I want to define Scholastic as K-12, not collegiate.
Sure.
Collegiate is its own thing, but I want to talk about the groups that I work with.
Sure.
The problem we've got right now, that I think is really big, is that people think this is a turnkey solution. That, to start an esports program is, again, let's get
12 computers, put them in a room, LED lights, here's the game titles, and the next thing you know, you're going to have your next, I don't want to say ninja, but you'll have your next ninja, whatever.
Right.
That is not what we're in for, and that's not what we're doing with this. We are not trying to create the next ninja or whatever professional gamer you want to have call out to. I couldn't even tell you half the name of professions. I don't follow the professionals, and I follow it cursory, but I don't really get into knowing who everybody is, because the reason is this: my goal is not to turn out tremendous gamers. My goal is to, again, those five things. And
as long as I'm building around that, the professional esports world can crash and burn. You know, we've got real problems. We're going to talk about Activision Blizzard, but let's not let Riot and Ubisoft and EA with the microtransactions, let's not let them off the hook easy either, because those things are huge problems. So it's important to realize that even if the professional industry collapsed, I still have at my fingertips the resources and the structure to pivot and build a whole new program if I need to, whether it's just within our own school district, or with some select schools in our area. That is still true to the academic goals. That's still giving kids an opportunity to compete. And again, it's not having to necessarily focus in on those discussions so much. But again, we have to be aware of those things, because you know the FaZe clan Save the Kids currency thing came up. Gambling has come up quite a bit. We have had to push back against companies that are backed by weed who are trying to come into schools. All right. I mean, and these people come in with the best of intentions, right? They just, we just want to help the kids. And they don't realize that we don't just operate on like, bring it all in and we're just going to let you do whatever with our students. No, we are gatekeeper. People will talk about there's too much gatekeeping in esports. There's not enough of it in the scholastic, because again, we are dealing with minors. My role as an educator isn't just teaching kids. I have to be like a protector. I have to gatekeep. That's part of my job, is to make sure that we're providing at least things that the community will find appropriate for our students. And you know, Call of Duty we're not in for it. We're not there with it. A lot of kids play it at home. Even Valorant, they want to play Valorant at home, cool, but there's some realistic things in there that we just don't jive with. And that again is the nice thing about not being turnkey. There's other schools that may want to play those games. That's on them. If their community's fine with it, cool. But we don't do it here. So you know, there needs to be this. What does esports look like? It's going to look different everywhere, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it definitely, let me make that clear, and all my stance on that. It's like, as a former competitor, I'm talking about the small amount of people who actually compete, right? But as far as education goes, no, I agree 100%. Like, it's gaming is the bigger thing, right? Like, that's the bigger experience, to give the tools, to give the entrepreneurship, to give a lot of things. But here's where that's getting, the Sports Illustrated cover is like the perfect example. It's changing.
If you haven't seen it, go look it up.
Because you'll go check out the.
It's worth looking up.
Right. So that's the issue, because now what you're getting is at the level of where you're teaching at, right? Let's come down to where you're teaching these young kids, right? Like, it's belittling the values you do get from sport, right? You get value from teamwork. You get value from competition. You get value from losing and having to get better and compete, right? And like strengthen your own skills and things like that. That's becoming so small that Derek's point's not even moot, right? Like, it's like people don't even want to. People have that mind state. People are like, why would I play? Why would I play when I could get on Twitch and get 10,000 people to follow me and make $1 million? Why would I do that? And that's terrible if you want to call it esports, because sports are about growing your skills and we learn through that, right? At a certain point, it's entertainment, not taking that away, of course. But we learn through sport as well. And so I don't think we have to, while respecting the gatekeepers like James, Alex, shout out again, and all the great teachers out there, we don't have to belittle what I'll say are like the new electronic gym teachers who actually run sports to teach the things you learn through I guess now e-education instead of physical education, but the things you would get from learning to be a good player and things like that. I don't want the culture to minimize that, because that's really where it started from. Before all this other stuff, it all started from us coming together and playing multiplayer mode. It started there. It's ludicrous to think that that's not important. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's a bit crazy.
It's also, you know, like, because I've interviewed Derek, and Derek, we talked about your experience playing Street Fighter 2, right? And you know how that was casual and yet serious, right? You could go in and but still go into the 7-Eleven, you're playing other people, but ultimately there was no tournament, there was no prize at the end. You were still casually playing. I mean, you could have gone and played tournaments and stuff, but those experiences at 7-Eleven or wherever, would you consider those more casual, even though you were competitive?
So I consider that going to the neighborhood court and practicing your hoop shot, and then on the weekend at Flipper McCoy's, where like the better mall where everyone converged at, that's where the tournament was per se. It wasn't a bracket or anything, but it was a stick your quarter up there, and then when it's your turn, how many quarters get to come down while you're still there shows how good you were. Like, you came down after the first quarter, then you just kind of sucked. But if there was a line to beat you or compete against you, then that was the tournament, and that's where you got your props. And then the 7-Eleven was the practice to that.
And see, for some, and this is where I think a lot of mistakes are being made right now in education, is that there are kids who just want that experience. They want the 7-Eleven. They want I just want to play some games with my friends, and I can't do it at my house, and we all live too far away. There's a lot of schools that already have gaming clubs like that, and they're thinking like, well, we'll just take our gaming club and make it esports. And to your point, Sebastian, that waters down what esports is. We're not talking about kids who just want to casually play games and they pick different games and they bring them to school or whatever. We're talking about is organized and competitive, right? Our teams have jerseys, our teams have a schedule, our teams know when they're supposed to practice. We rent facility space for them to do their practices. That is still honoring all the pillars that I'm building around. But again, it is esports. It's organized and competitive. We're not just messing around here. So
just as important,
those are
right? Sorry to cut you off.
It is. It is. No, it absolutely is.
Culture there, right? Like that's the most important thing. But we got to be able to separate them. Like.
So let me ask you, even as an educator, if we separate them, are we separating the budget for them as an organization as well?
That's typically what happens, yes, because in schools they're funded completely differently. So like a game club is going to have a different budget than my esports club. I have a line item that says esports. Schools may have just a club budget, and it's usually just a set amount that they get, and then they have to figure out if they're going to fundraise, car washes, or go to the Chick-fil-A or whatever. But to the point about
which one gets the bigger budget? Which one should get the bigger budget?
The gaming should.
Mine does. I've got my budget to compare for my 6 high school programs. I think we're right around $200,000 now a year. We started with nothing. But again, it's speaking to those strategic goals. It's speaking to those things that of engaging kids who are not already engaged. But again, not ignoring those kids who are in those gaming clubs, because again, those things are equally important. Marcus, you remember what happened with Tampa Bay? What was it? University of South Florida, Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. They cannibalized the gaming club. It's so almost the exact opposite situation of what Derek and Chosen were describing. It's where the university wanted to take on esports officially, and they basically cannibalized the gaming club because they didn't recognize. I don't know if they didn't recognize it, but I see, and I'm sure you all do, that gaming is not just esports. There was cosplay in there. There was tabletop. There was everything that's in gaming. Then the university came in, created the esports club, and then I don't know if a lot of the students may have left, or it was devastating to the community that was built. I think at the time that was the largest student organization on campus.
Yeah.
Right.
It was pretty impressive. And they had money. They were generating money amongst themselves too.
Yeah.
And I think even the university approached them for help to make this transition, and then all of a sudden it was, okay, we're going to do our own thing. So there's a lot of people, again, I don't know any educators for the most part who are going to do things maliciously, right? I only imagine that they're doing things with the best of intentions, but what's happening now is you get these companies and these groups who are coming in with these silver bullet solutions who are going to fix all your ills, all your problems, and it's going to be esports. I saw the same thing. I've been an educator for over 20 years. I've been a tech director for 10 of those 20, probably, roughly 10. And the same thing was when we were all giving kids iPads, right? These schools were launching these huge iPad programs, and they said, oh, if we get the technology in kids' hands, everything will be great. And for a lot of schools, what they were doing was, yeah, they were getting the technology in kids' hands, but they had no goals around it other than get the technology in kids' hands. And then they had no plan. And the teachers are like, well, all my kids have iPads now, but all they're doing is messaging each other, and they're on YouTube, or they're trying to break the filter or whatever. The same thing's happening now with esports. Hey, get an esports program that's going to take care of all your ills. You're going to connect with all your kids. You're going to be able to work about, creation, collaboration, all that. But none of the schools themselves are looking at saying, what can we do with this other than what the salesperson is telling us we can do? There's no critical thinking that's going into this. There's no mindfulness around mental health. Mental health issues right now. I mean, God, we're coming out of COVID. And I know that there's teachers burned out, but man, there's kids who are coming to us on their last strings, right? They have just, they need something. And for a lot of them, these are the things. And here's the problem is that there's schools who during the pandemic did launch esports programs. They put no dollars behind it. They basically said, you kid, you have something at home, we'll let you play from home, right? So they got to play from home, but now they're all coming back to school. What are you going to do now? Tell them to go back home and keep playing from home again? You're not going to put any serious stuff. You're not paying some of these coaches. That's the hard thing. These teachers are doing this out of love. Damn it. If you're a teacher who's doing it for nothing, get paid. You got to get paid. My people get paid. If you're doing it for the love of whatever, that is not going to sustain you. That is not how you build a sustainable program. That's not how you build cultural change. That's not how you build, that is not how you grow a program. So if you're going to take it seriously, you got to ask for serious dollars. And again, it starts with not with what games we're going to buy, what computers we're going to use. It starts with, here's our goals. Here's what I need to achieve them. And then the conversation starts, and you got to pull your stakeholders. Your stakeholders are your teachers and your students, but it's also your administrators. It's also your community members. It's also your legislators. I can't tell you how many legislators are more than happy to come learn about esports, right? Because now they're seeing not only is there tax revenue potentially here, but this is also a different way to connect with kids. This is a different way to build up infrastructure in areas where right now, maybe, especially now that the infrastructure plan looks like it's going to get passed through, Biden is looking at ways to expand broadband into some of these rural areas that you go into some rural areas, there's nothing. And now it's like, hey, we could actually, if we had broadband here, we could do X, Y, or Z. This could be one of your variables within that as well, too. So
I like the vision.
Sorry, I go off on tangents. So you got to rein me in at some point.
No, those are all valuable
I get
points.
the vision. I think that, again, I'm just behind that. I think gaming in general is obviously an opportunity for communities to be built, right? And that obviously brings the opportunity for marketing and obviously inclusion, and it obviously behooves whatever organization because it brings more people with more interest, right? That's the most important part. I want to say that first before I continue to wax poetic on what makes a point. But back to one thing that you said, it said that the gaming department gets way bigger than esports, right?
No.
I said that it should. That was me.
Esports gets,
Well,
I'm
because
just looking at the numbers.
esports gets the bigger budget than gaming.
Well, yeah, because right now, the way our gaming clubs largely are set up, and they're different. Again, they're related to the building. They're much smaller budget. Usually kids are bringing in their own devices. They're bringing in games to try out. It's not the, hey, we need a practice time. Hey, we need a practice facility. Hey, we've even had some travel that we've had to build in. We're making it legit, so we've got jerseys. I'm not wearing my state championship ring, but I'll tell you it's ridiculously huge. We got state championship ring. I'm like, look, if we're gonna do this as a thing, we're gonna do this as a thing, right? But gaming clubs, they fill a different need. They fill a different. There's tabletop games that are being played in those, Dungeons and Dragons, all different kinds of games. It's not just video games that are being played in those spaces, but they're equally important. It's just that right now we have much bigger, because of the competitive nature of our group, it does get a much bigger budget in this case.
So let
me ask you, from a scholastic standpoint, if a game that you're using in your program has troubles as a developer, do you boycott the game as part of your program, or do you ignore it and it's its own silo?
That's a really good question, because hasn't some things been happening with some of these companies, like, I don't know, Activision Blizzard? Let's talk about that one for a second, because that's a great question, right? How do we? Because you've had, let's see, what have you had now? You've had Riots sued by the state of California for discriminatory practices. You've had Activision Blizzard now sued by the state of California for discriminatory practices. You've had Ubisoft, who has their own stuff. I mean, here's where I think esports, if done right, if done properly, really starts to flourish, even when these titles are struggling, because now we get to have legitimate conversations with kids about some really serious social issues in a context that they understand. A lot of kids don't necessarily understand, and I don't want to minimize any of this, but I just want to say they don't necessarily understand social issues like being people of color, in a community, for example.
That's a nice way to put it.
And having to deal with
spend 5 minutes in a Call of Duty lobby. That's a nice way to put that.
Well, there is that too, but I mean, but they can relate to some of these game experiences where they have been harassed based off of just how they sound, not even what they look like, but just how they sound. But now even opening up the conversation to say, like, this company has these practices. I'm not saying, and my immediate knee-jerk response is to say, well, let's get rid of these titles. But then somebody said, well, what titles are you going to have left? And I go, honestly, I don't really know anymore what titles we would have. We could do some. I do dig that City Skylines is doing a competitive build. I love those. Minecraft also doing competitive build is great. But I think it's important for us to also still be in the space. Again, if we're here to also redefine athletic and esports culture, it's important for us to be in the space, reading about it, learning about it, and listening to the kids, especially, because some of these kids also have very serious opinions about some of these things. Some schools in my district will choose whether they're going to field a team or not, and it might come up this fall that some of my schools say, we're not going to do an Overwatch team anymore. Thankfully, we have alternatives. We're bringing in 2K this year. We still have Super Smash Brothers. But this is, like I said, this is an opportunity for serious conversations in meaningful ways for kids to start taking place, for them to practice these things. Because these kind of conversations, they take place all the time in the adult world, right? A lot of times we shelter kids from them, or they only get one side or whatever. It's important that they start to practice this social discourse in ways that they are fully, not just that something they're reading on Instagram, or not something they're just reading on whatever social media platform, again, the one side or the uneducated side, but really looking at it from all sides and hearing all sides. Because again, the demographics tell us that if 97% of boys and 83% of girls across all socioeconomics and race are involved in gaming and gaming culture in some way, then these are conversations that we can start, and again, provide these walled garden experiences for kids to have legitimate conversations about them. And I'll tell you, if a bunch of kids came to me and said, hey, we're not comfortable playing this game, I'm going to support them, and I'll find them an alternative. That's why these turnkey solutions where it's like, oh, pay for your Overwatch season. Man, Overwatch, I don't know how they're going to even keep that league going. They lost T-Mobile. They lost, let's see what they lose. They lost State Farm. I don't know if they lost Budweiser, but I know they have. But anyway, these are legit conversations now that are real for kids.
I'm glad that you mentioned it was a teachable moment, and I think that's the proper way to frame this, right? It's having these conversations with young adults, help them become adults, right? Adults as the rest of us are. What are your thoughts? And I find it odd that I don't hear enough of your perspective as a teacher from other schools, just like I don't hear enough of what we discussed this episode and over the podcast, the series of podcasts about what's happening in esports. I feel like so many schools are beholden or in the back pocket of these games where they're building these teams and they can't afford to not have a team, or they don't want to have some kind of backlash from the publisher. Just like with esports, when things happen in the space, there are well-known people in the space who aren't speaking up about it because they might need a FaZe clan or some other organization to support them in some event or have their talent team show up. What do you think about that?
I've never needed talent to show up for us to run an event around a game.
You can go to Smash GG right now, and any of these games we're listing, go to Smash GG right now. Pick your phone up and look how many people are entered in games. So we're talking about people who want to compete, right? Who want to compete for whatever reason, whether they want to just have fun or be the best. You got to enter the tournament. So you got to enter. You got to put your info and enter. Let's go to Smash GG right now and check any game. We can go Smash, we can go Overwatch, we can go Fortnite, we can go whatever. How many people are entering the game? So it's not like people don't want to be competitive, but as Marcus said, and I'll let you jump in, James. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, like, it's important that like people understand that the narrative of the whole industry and the ecosystem is being what Marcus is saying. People don't want to follow the route to making it equitable, competitive for anybody to come in and build their name up, because there's already people who have, as James said, built that brand like a FaZe clan. So now it's teaching the ones coming, like, it's not good for me to just enter and be the best. It's actually steering you away from that. It's literally steering you from that. You see what I'm saying? Like, as far as the money goes, as far as opportunity goes, as far as anything goes, it's steering you away, because we even talk something like Activision Blizzard. They're not only being investigated for egregious claims that we've heard for years, by the way, that like Activision Blizzard has had, problems with paying women, getting disrespected in the office and things like that. But at the same time, the Department of Justice is running as investigation because they're pretty much double dipping with the players' money in the Overwatch League. So that's the company. Now we're at a publisher level. So now this is just an opinion of a pundit. Now we're in the publisher's offices, and they're signing paperwork to say, hey, let's make sure the players can't unionize and keep them quiet. It's not like, as James said, you can do basic math. It's not like it's profitable anyway. Our bigger stuff is when we do things that are more for content creators and things like that. It is literally destroying the competitive spirit of playing video games competitively. Yeah, if we go to Smash GG, if we go to Challenge, we go to anywhere where people can play and compete, it's bigger than ever. It hasn't gotten no smaller. It hasn't gotten no smaller. The industry is a bunch of people who are like, well, look at the cover of Sports Illustrated. Or look at Overwatch just shrunk down. Call of Duty just shrunk down from 5 to 4. Well, Overwatch went from 6 to 5, and Call of Duty went from 5 to 4. Less chance as a player, but everybody's got a camera. And that's cool, but there just needs to be a line. So I'm just keep putting that in. But James, feel free to tackle Marcus's question.
I kind of forgot what the question was.
My bad. I had to let him know, man. I had to let him know. That's right.
The question was, why don't you hear more people, like yourselves being critical of this or at least engaging the critical conversation around the impact of what's happening in the games and whether or not a school should support that game. I'm not saying necessarily cancel all games, right? But that conversation is not even being had, as far as I can see. And I can't see everything. I think you would know more and know better than I would.
I think we are having it. It's just we're having it behind the scenes right now. Especially, like, for example, I'm part of the board of the Wisconsin High School Esports Association. Titles and these issues, these major issues, are always on our mind when we're talking about what titles are we going to pursue. And again, it is such a hard, it's like, when do you draw the line? Well, I say you'll know it when you need to draw it. And again, it's going to be different for various people. It's going to be different for various organizations. There's going to be something that hopefully makes people realize that this has gone too far or gone far enough. Here's what I want to see. I always say I want to see the receipts. Riot hasn't fired any of that I'm aware of, hasn't fired any of their top people since the scandal broke. Yet Riot has taken some steps too, and I've talked to some people who have chosen to work with Riot to help with diversity and inclusion in their company. I then take solace in realizing, okay, it sounds like they're trying to do some work, but if the shoe ever drops, I'm prepared to move on. It was nice to see that Activision Blizzard's CEO resigned, but that to me is only the first step. What's the next step? What are you doing after this? It's very easy for us to cut and run, but again, there are some kids who again are so passionate about these games, who have built up such a love for them. And again, having the conversations about what is really happening and introducing those things to them, because they may not even be aware of what's happening in those arenas. They may have their blinders on and they don't care. They're just playing the game every day. They wake up, they're just going to keep playing. It's these walled garden experiences that we give kids where they can have a chance to express themselves. Our Discord server is valuable in that sense because we can have a lot of serious conversations. We can use it as a way to educate kids, not necessarily overwhelm them with information, but provide them information that is going to allow them to be a little more educated about what they're involved with in their experience. So and I've got some students even right now who are working on journalism, right? They see the their passion is journalism. And we even have one of our GMs, he works for a company that does esports writing. And it's been a great partnership for us because now he arranged for kids to do, these kind of journalistic things. This, again, we're not just using this as a way to play games, but we're using this as promoting social awareness through gaming. I mean, there's a lot of kids who just don't think about these things, but now we're able to do that. Who couldn't do it before. I hope I didn't dodge your question. I don't think I did.
No, you answered
okay.
it. You answered. I'm glad to hear that again, like you said, the conversation is being had behind closed doors because it's important, right? It impacts the students ultimately.
Yeah, and that's the most important.
And sometimes I just go off. Sometimes it's not closed doors, and I'll just go off and go, "What the hell?"
That was an example.
So that one point I wanted to make about your question, Marky, was that being in our industry, because we're pioneering, I personally see stuff that are done by people where I'm like you're not helping the industry, right? But then I think about that person and say, well, technically, I don't feel like Chris is a bad person. Like, I don't feel like he's malicious in what he's doing to mess up esports. So therefore, I don't want to criticize what he's doing in esports in the industry because it will be a personal attack versus, hey, you didn't do very good at diversity over here when you had this opportunity, but here you are talking about the importance of diversity and inclusion now on a LinkedIn post because you're doing something with the HBCU.
Facts. That's a problem. And now I'm gonna take it a step.
But should we? Should you be critical?
I mean, to me,
yes.
You can't be critical. Like, my thing is, like, you're right. It's a pioneer state. So everybody, when the pioneers were out in the Wild Wild West, right? You could be critical, but then you to walk 10 paces, and somebody's gonna be less critical in a second, right? It's like, this is the Wild Wild West we're in. It's not set, right? It's not set, and that's what we're all four of us right now in 25 years will be seen as people who started this entire thing that's going on, right? So you can't really, like, I can't judge it. I can't, like, judge it. I could, like, have my opinion or whatever, but I can't judge it. And so that's why, like, that's why I'm strong in the way I see it, because that's my thing, like, right? A lot of people, like James, you're an educator. For years before esports, you were using esports and gaming in your teachings. I wouldn't try to question your knowledge or understanding of, like, how to connect, the importance of kids, why you're a gatekeeper. These are things that are bigger than esports. When we get into esports, we talk about the landscape, right? And again, it's very, very early. I'm only here talking to the three of you professionals right now because I was a competitor, right? I'm a marketer now. I understand that, and I'm an entrepreneur, of course. But because I started as a competitor, I know the importance of what it did. So when I don't see, so then I want to take that deeper, right? Because I've been saying that. That's like my third time saying that. I just wanted to set because I'm going to take you a little bit deeper. So now, I saw someone in the comments on LinkedIn. I don't want to call you out by name, but I'm gonna have to read the comments, so they're gonna know. I think it's Fiona, because she's making some good points. She's saying the gaming is more important. James is right. Gaming is more important. I think I've conceded that, and I think Derek made a great point on that the bigger picture is big, and Marcus is always saying that. I'm not saying that that's not the case. What I am saying, okay, is that the panel. She says that the panel is basically showing, like, what's going to end up. If I was to say that, like, we go competitive, we build it off of competitive nature, then it'll be like, she says, like white faces. Well, that's not because faces of other races aren't going to be able to be the best. right? Like that's a deeper issue that we obviously have to dig in. That is what. And shout out to Kat the Shields who calls it gym code, because we have digital redlining happening. Okay. There's a reason why PC games make sure that every year and a half they make you have to get a new graphics card. There's a reason why every year and a half you have to get upgraded PCs, and then the economic disparity shows right in the line between the races, right? And so I tie all that into why making competitive esports open for everybody, anybody, console, PC, whatever, can help people grow and get into a bigger space. Because as it's set right now, look at all the leagues. What you think? No black kids play League of Legends? Is that what you think?
Well, but here's the issue, and this popped up during the pandemic with us. It wasn't so much the digital redlining is real, right? The digital internet access itself is an issue in my town, but so was just having access to the consoles. Just so was having access to the gaming system. I have told people that scholastic esports is a social justice issue as much as anything else, because there are career opportunities that are built into it. There are collegiate opportunities that are built into it. And if schools are not making these investments, if schools are not making these opportunities, if you're in the poorest of areas, it is one of these ways you can engage kids very quickly for a relatively low cost amount of money if your school makes that investment, to potentially allow kids access to now scholarships that they probably didn't have access to before. Now I know that cross-platform play is becoming big, but ultimately, if you're going to be, again, Chosen, you probably appreciate this. If you're going to be professional, or if you're going to do something serious, be serious about it and put serious dollars into it. You have to. This can't just be the kid with the console at home just saying, okay, well, I'm going to try the best that I can and hopefully my team wins. This is, like I said, at the scholastic level, esports is a social justice issue. And I've seen, unfortunately, I've gone to events where my team is the only one that brings in girls. My team is the only one that brings in people of color. My team is the only one who brings in people who identify with genders other than their own. Because we make that a goal of our program, because we have set out to say we have to. I want every one of our teams to be a cross section of our schools. If it's 50-50 boys and girls, our team should be 50-50 boys and girls. Are we there yet? We're not. But again, there's too many people who have the mindset, and again, good educators, not people who are doing anything malicious, who will put that flyer up in the hallway and it just says esports. And there are literally girls who will look at it and go, well, that's not for me. Or there's kids of color who look at it and go, well, they're not playing FIFA, they're not playing 2K, that's not for me. Right? Again, that's why none of this is turnkey. This is why we have to be in this space. We have to open up these opportunities for kids. Again, because if your school is choosing, I'm not saying if you don't know about it, you're not choosing to, but if you're choosing not to engage in this, you are potentially cutting off access to higher education or career opportunities for kids because you're choosing not to. That's a huge problem that I see right now.
Another comment somebody made that ties right into what you're saying. Like somebody said, okay, but you shouldn't be worried about esports if it's not like team building. At a certain level, I actually like that because it is important, right? It is very important. However, I'll give you a real life example of digital redlining, right?
Okay.
I come from a community called the FGC. Do you know about the FGC?
Fighting game community.
Okay. Shout it out. All right? I come from the FGC. All right. If you know, you know. You don't have what's understood doesn't have to be explained. Why is the FGC the smallest community in games? Mortal Kombat sold 5 million copies. Tekken sold.
Primarily, it's console based, and primarily it's people of color.
Exactly. Okay. And so that begins to trickle down into who's on FaZe Clan. Well done.
Hold on.
Well done. I see you. Kobe, I see you. Why? Because it trickles down into who gets the sponsorships. It trickles down into who gets the opportunities. It trickles down into who takes their gaming career serious. It trickles down into that. It's why. Do you ever is the shooting games called the shooting game community? Do you go to a Call of Duty tournament and a couple kids in the back are playing Halo? Do you go to a Halo tournament and a couple kids in the back are playing Rainbow Six? No, all the fighting games are put into one room because they have the lowest budget, they have the lowest opportunity, and they have the low. Now, those gamers aren't considered esports players. You don't see them on a daily basis when some of the most entertaining and highest viewed YouTube videos across the land come from the fighting game community. But see, when we start chasing celebrity and sponsorship over actual skills and things like that, well, then why would you ever? MOBA is way bigger. Who's going to invest in that? The companies are more about the money. I'm not mad at them. You're right. Oreo is going to go support MOBA. T-Mobile is going to go support Overwatch. Even to a failed extent, right? Like to a failed plan, it's going to support it because it's Activision Blizzard. They got Call of Duty. That's more popular. That's more there. When do we start to grow things? When do we start to see potential in things and see things in opportunity? Because from where I'm standing from, as a black player from the FGC, it's looking like lack of opportunity. I'm just telling you from my eyes. I can't speak from, I definitely, I wax poetic all the time with Red. Shout out to Red. She's not here today, but we love Red. Hopefully Red out there. I wax poetic all the time about how women should get more opportunities. They play more mobile games than men, right? And mobile games are huge market. And gender discrimination and all that. But I'm only speaking from the eyes of a black man who came up off the Xbox playing fighting games that I was never able to get. Shit, I walked into MLG in 2006, and I was amazed from what I had been just doing. I walked into MLG, they had referee shirts on. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, damn, these Halo kids take it serious. I want to be here. They got air conditioning in here. Damn.
But Chosen, here's the thing, though, right? We realize this. These tournaments, and right now, these companies that have been investing in esports and esports companies are not getting a return on the investment, are they? They're not making it. But how are they starting to make their money now? They're diversifying, right? And I mean, now we've got this mess with FaZe Clan and Save the Kids. And Marcus explained to me Bitcoin and blockchain. We did a whole episode on it, and I still think I came away not 100% sure. It wasn't until Save the Kids and starting to look at the story and the breakdown that I finally, thank you, Marcus, for your help, but it made it all come together. These companies now are diversifying into other things. They're diversifying again into cryptocurrency. And again, you've got a very captive audience of 14 to 18-year-old kids who are seeing these things and thinking like, I can do this, or I can be a part of this. And unfortunately, what you've got are unsavory characters in this space who other than anything other than having a social media account are able to get access to these kids and potentially, as we found with Save the Kids, mislead. I don't know how many kids were investing in this, but genuinely mislead. And it's not going to be just, crypto. It's going to be a lot of other things that these people are putting their brands into. Again, when LeBron James' son is on the cover of Sports Illustrated in a FaZe Clan jersey, he's not in a basketball jersey, something's up. And this isn't about sports, this is about making money. And they're going to find ways to tap into that 14 to 18-year-old market because they're going to grow up with them. So that is why educators need to be in this space. We have to be. If parents aren't going to do it, and we got to engage our parents. If we're not engaging our parents through this as well, and I've done a horrible job of that, and that's something I'm going to be fixing this year. We're actually starting a PTA for our esports program. But it's engaging parents and educating them, because for too long, what have we done in schools? Oh, YouTube, we don't want to deal with that. We're going to block it. Facebook, we don't want to deal with that. We're going to block it. Twitter, we don't want to deal with that. TikTok, forget it. We're going to block it. We have too long stuck our head in the sand. And what do we have to show for it? Because we've got these 30-year-olds and 30-year-olds, mostly 20s and 30-year-olds, who don't know how to act in business. They don't know how to act online. They don't know how to act in society now, because society is basically online, because they were basically left to their own devices as teenagers. They've had a Lord of the Flies experience, and sadly, they've had to grow up in that place and just learn to survive. And they have, but because it hasn't been because of us. So why are we shocked when Activision Blizzard bosses are running a Bill Cosby suite? We shouldn't be, because these kids have been basically taking care of themselves online. They think everything's fine. Their buddies say, hey, that's cool. There isn't a parent who's told them, don't do that. Don't have a Bill Cosby. What are you, crazy? Don't have a Bill Cosby suite, you know.
Yeah, and shout out to Chris and Shay from Coalition of Parents in Esports. I just spoke with Chris a couple of days ago. And it's parents, each of them are parents, separate families of kids who came up in esports or content creation, and then they recognize there's this giant gap, right, between like the success that their kids are having and their ability to help guide that success and be there, the mental health for their kids. And you're right, it's a gap that if most parents aren't willing to fill, it ultimately falls on the teachers to do. So you do need to be there.
Yeah. And like I said, that whole thing, if you haven't, look, if you're watching this and you don't know what we're talking about, look up CoffeeZilla. Yeah, I had to look it up myself. CoffeeZilla, and look up FaZe Clan, just the two. But watch the YouTube video. You will be stunned and amazed at just how easily it is that crypto can be misguided, misused, but also how easily also a good sleuth can also figure out what the real story is, because it is open and it is an open blockchain, which I think is
exactly.
Yeah.
No, so. And that people don't still misunderstand that like blockchain is 100% transparent. Where in most cases there are private blockchains, but for the general public, it's publicly available, right? It's a public ledger, and all of it's auditable. It's immutable. So if you do something on the public blockchain, everyone can see what's happening there. And I've been an advocate for blockchain and crypto for nearly 10 years now. So I'm certainly bullish on it, but I also recognize that there are some bad players in the ecosystem who will misuse it. And I just want to see more awareness for the ecosystem so we don't have these types of scams when there's so much opportunity, because I don't want people pointing, you go to a school and try to get them to do crypto. They may point to the Save the Kids scam and say, no, we're not going to do it because of, the Save the Kids scam. We don't need that. It's too early in the ecosystem. And to answer your other question, Derek, it's taken me some personal growth over the last couple of years, but I don't, how do I put this? I respect what Chris Smith does in his edge of the ecosystem, right? It's not against him, because he, just like Chosen, he came up as a competitive gamer, right? And he is supporting that side of the ecosystem. So I really see it as like two sides of the same coin. That part is important, but there are some clear issues. And if for whatever reason those issues aren't being addressed, then we can champion the solutions that the ecosystem needs to be sustainable. So I don't think necessarily need to criticize any one individual if they're growing one segment. We just need to continue to do what we need to do to make this success for everyone.
Sometimes you gotta call people out, though.
Let me clarify. So me saying the name Chris, that was a random name I was picking. Like I was trying to pick.
Well, there you go. Shout out to Chris Smith in Australia. It's gonna get to him one way or the other.
I just mean I know that I see things happening within the industry, and I'll see such and such. I'll say instead of a name, I see such and such, and I'm like, it wasn't good that they did that. It wasn't good that they did that, but I don't think such and such is a bad person. So I'm not going to criticize what he's doing because I don't think he's a bad person, and I'll just let the industry evolve in its organic way.
Yeah, and
only problem with that is that certain individuals have gotten popular, and so therefore their wrongdoings have more influence on steering the space incorrectly because they do have popularity. And that's the part where sometimes I feel like maybe we should say something as an industry because they're influencing the industry in the wrong way.
What is happening, bruh? That is.
I have to ask this.
What I'm saying.
Wait, I have to ask this. So I'm going to flip hats here for a second. I'm going to become the Esports Academy of Esports host here for just a second to ask you all three questions. Okay, I've got three black males here, right? XSET. We all know what XSET is. Okay, it was a brand that was built on, hey, we're going to bring in diverse sets of gamers. We're going to bring in a diverse set of people. We're going to align ourselves with other people. When it first launched, it got a splash in the New York Times. I checked it out, and I went into their Discord, and I went into their memes channel, and there was some very racist, inappropriate, I would say racist, inappropriate memes that were not being weeded out. That was my first, and again, this was early in XSET's launch, but we also have to be aware of, right? And I'm going to ask you this: do we have to be aware of just allyship, where people are using people of color, where they're using minorities, where they're using women to forward again, because we're about to make money, right? To make your money. Do you see that? Because I see XSET and I go, XSET has that. I only get one chance to make a first impression. Your first impression to me was racist memes. Now they may have cleaned it up. I don't know, but I'm not going back to it because of what I saw. How can you come out at a launch and say we're all about this? So do you feel a sense that there's a lot of this, I guess, allyship that's taking place? What do we call it? Like not legitimate.
Okay. No. That's sincere.
Yeah. Insincere. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Insincere allyship.
I think that diversity and inclusion is the only path to profitability. You talk about gamers, you talk about games, you talk about brands, right? And so much of what we've seen, and I've only been in this space 4 years now, has all been kind of hyper-focused tunnel vision in this one definition of what esports is, when I don't think that it's broad enough. So I think there are some organizations that are doing that sincerely, but frankly, XSET spun out of FaZe Clan, and FaZe Clan doesn't have the best track record for...
Is that a tag-in? Are you tagging me?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hell no. And you should know anybody who's genuine about real inclusion. And James, Chris Turner just shouted you out and said that's why he rocks with you. And this is our first exchange, and now I rock with you too. Conversations like this are what have to happen. And it's the fake shit that is just getting to be what is leading in fake pundits, fake experience, things that are not like. That's what I'm saying. And I take it back to what I was saying. Imagine if XSET was started by somebody who was a former pro player. Look at 100 Thieves, right? We look at 100 Thieves. We could pound for pound say, out of all of them, they're doing it the closest to what we would call right? Could everybody agree with that? They're started by, as far as what we call right? Like they actually try to compete in all the games. Any opportunity they get, they try to compete in it. They try to get the best people. They have a content creation side. They separate it. It's very clear. They're trying to do apparel. They're building a lifestyle, right? Like, we see it, and it has a I watch tournaments, and I constantly see 100 Thieves players in top 10. I see things like that. They're clearly, I live up the street, as Marcus knows, from the compound where you can see they train. I walk the stairs. Their players actually go exercise on the stairs. I've met them, a couple of their guys. They're in it. Any league that Valorant comes out, they drop a team. They go right in, and they're trying to be the best, okay? Why is that the thing? Because it was started by a player. It was started by somebody who actually has intent to build an ecosystem for diversity, inclusion, for anybody who's... what you need to be good at is the game. XSET is started by Clinton Sparks. XSET is started by some dude I don't even know. XSET is started with Aaron and Ashley Simon. Between the three of them, how much esports and gaming experience do they have? Now, that's fine. I'm not disrespecting nobody. I want to make that clear. The space is yours, the Wild Wild West. Nobody can stop anybody. I don't want to put down what their intention is. But am I surprised at hearing that you went into a Discord and there was a bunch of racist memes? No, because the front of it was like, we're allies, we're this, we're that. But then I look at your history, and there's no ally history. There's no ally, we've been trying to build this esports community history. It looks like there's a problem, and you're trying to create a solution. Then say that then. Say that then. Don't try to act like that's your... And obviously when we say problem and solution, that's how you make money, right? You bring a solution to a problem. Mm-hmm. You guys are trying to make money. That's fine. But don't try to say like you've been working and pioneering. And that's insulting to people like James or myself or Derek or Marcus. It's insulting. And no, we don't take it seriously.
So...
Go ahead, Derek.
So I want to say my 2 cents on the fakeness of it, or token, or insincere. I used to have a problem with it, but then I realized within culture, within people, I'm gonna say within even my community in general, the Black community, there are individuals that are so hungry for opportunity, like they need to escape whatever lifestyle that they're in or make whatever ends meet, that they're willing to do that and an ability to escape. And I can't knock them for having short peripherals on just trying to survive themselves while killing everyone else out there in the space, because they're individuals that, hey, that's what they're willing to do. I still see value in that. I still see value in brands doing it from well, let me find someone that I can partner with to say that I'm doing my diversity and inclusion thing. And there's some power in that, but it isn't real inclusion to me if it's not economics. And I think that's the part that pisses me off, is because you have individuals that are willing or so hungry for the opportunity that they're willing to ignore not being included economically. So then they set the bar that we don't need to include this group in a diverse manner economically, because there is someone in line that I don't need to pay or give money to because they just want the opportunity. And from a optic standpoint, they check the block for me as, see, there's a Black person, see, there's a gay person that's willing to rock with me from a brand standpoint. But then on paper, financially, this person isn't even making 1%, 2% or anything of the money that's being generated from my diversity and inclusion efforts. And that's what I have a problem with, because I real deal see people in my community that they sell perks, they sell weed because they don't have, like, they feel like there's nothing else for them to do. And so an economic opportunity that allows them to escape the stereotypes that make people feel like they can justify excluding that group is serious matter to me. It's not just this group feels like they're doing diversity and inclusion because they did a HBCU thing, an event, and they spent 12 grand on that, and that checked the block for them. So they're not racist or exclusive. But the company is making 20 million or 15 million.
That already touches a few points for me. One, I feel like, well, I want to ask a question first. Let me ask you a question, D. Okay, we come from about the same area, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Do you feel like you would rather it that, if you're obviously trying to bring solutions to the community, right? The brothers out there who are trying to get money any way possible, like, they're trying to bring solutions. You think it's better if they could pick up the sticks and change that, or you think they need to do all the intangibles to become popular and do all that? Do you think that should be more important? Do you think picking up the sticks and making their way out should be a better, in your world, if you could control it, how would you have it?
And if I could control it, I would. I really wouldn't even have you picking up the sticks. I'm supporting you picking up the sticks so that I can show you these other things. So I can show you the content creation. I can show you how to use Premiere, Adobe, etc., that you can make money on the side, freelance those skills and abilities with. I'm showing you how opportunity from an entrepreneur standpoint, where you can write off your video game console equipments and subscriptions to save you money, etc. Like, I would be using it for that.
I do.
Right, like that. So the sticks part and the gaming part is still just a Trojan horse for me, because the economics part is so important to me.
And see, Derek, that's what we do at schools.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, what you just talked about right there, it's exactly what we're doing.
I love it.
We're taking that interest, right? We're taking that immediate interest that kids have and say, yes, I want to participate in esports. And we're saying, okay, now that you're here, let's talk about the way we make you a better gamer. Well, first of all, we're going to introduce you into lifting weights. Now, we know you've been avoiding lifting weights forever, and you don't like going to PE class or whatever. Let me tell you something. When you lift weights, it works the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which helps with problem solving. So by lifting, you don't have to bench 400 pounds. It's cool. But if you just come lift weights with us, it's going to help with your problem solving. It's going to make you a better gamer. And I'm going to give you a water bottle, because I want you drinking water. I don't want you drinking those energy drinks. I want you drinking water, because water is a thing that first of all, it's relatively free. Hopefully it's clean in your community, and it's going to, a lot of times, the times when you're feeling most tired in the day isn't because you're tired, it's because you're just dehydrated a lot of times. But let's talk about you being tired, because now we can talk about sleep. And I'm not telling you to go home and play Overwatch or any game for 8 hours. What I'm telling you is our practice is this time to this time. We're going to have it be purposeful. We're going to be here for a reason. When you go home, if you want to play some games, cool, but I'm not telling you to go home and practice for 8 hours. You got homework you got to do. do. You're a kid. You need to go out and live a life. Enjoy your music. Enjoy your cultural entertainment. Get your homework done. But I don't want you playing this video game for 8 hours. That's been really one of the biggest pushbacks some parents have about esports is they say, well, now you're just telling my kid to play a whole bunch of video games. They already does that. I'm like, no. Now we're giving it purpose. Now we're giving it meaning. Now we're introducing these other things. I've got some kids who just say, you know what? I love gaming culture, but can I just be a shoutcaster? Absolutely. Yep. Come on in. Me, I'm a terrible gamer. You do not want me on your team. I would have still put a quarter up against Derek at a 7-Eleven but he would have wiped the floor with me in Street Fighter 2. There would have been no contest. You would have just been like, dude, you sure you want to waste some more money on this? Okay, no. But what Derek was just talking about is exactly what we're trying to do in schools. Exactly. If we're doing it right, and that's not everybody doing it right. I'm gonna call some people out. The play versus, the HSELs, which is like a subscription-based thing. They're not setting up esports programs for success. Scholastic programs. They're not setting them up. They're setting them up to get started, but they're not setting them up for long-term success. You want long-term success, you come talk to me. Or listen to my podcast. Or I'm going to plug the Academy of Esports podcast. Yeah. Which again, I had Derek and Marcus on to talk about their thoughts too. So,
James, I have a question because I agree with you that gaming and esports should have purpose and meaning, especially in Scholastic. If that's the case, and I know it to be the case, why are so many schools signed up to the play versus and the HSELs if they're not delivering what the schools need to meet the school's goals for the students?
You're gonna go back and watch because I already answered that, but let's let the expert answer it. James, go ahead.
Because they don't know what they're looking for. A lot of these, I mean, these are, you want to talk about high pressure sales. I've had to contact play versus and say, stop emailing my people. You're screwing I said, we're good. We're not signing up for play versus, but they will find every way, and including, you want to talk about a Trojan horse. They'll go to the kids and say, oh, just take this to your school leader and we'll get you started. A lot of school leaders don't know what they're signing up for. So it is to me disingenuous. It is about making money. It is not about, again, engaging in the space to forward educational thinking and educational thought. And again, it is hyper aggressive. It has been things where they will, again, when you're backed with $70 million or $100 million or whatever it is, it's easy to hire people to make aggressive phone calls and to especially during the pandemic when schools were looking for anything to get kids involved. And so again, there were a lot of schools that signed up, but I'll tell you, a lot of the schools that signed up were not prepared to do this. And there were a lot of no-shows. They had a lot of forfeits because of no-shows. I had one team who said they basically made it through their entire, you want to talk about chosen, you want to talk about, having a real season. How would you like to make the state playoffs and you've only played one match, but you made playoffs because everybody else forfeit?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Think about that.
Doesn't like that.
Yeah. Again, that's just a false promise on what this is. Again, play versus could go out of business. HSCL could go out of business. My state association could go out of business. We are still prepared to engage with esports because our priorities are not about the games, the titles themselves. It's about the experiences that we can provide kids within ourselves.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. And Delane and I have had some very colorful conversations, we will say, about just those same things.
Thank you for your leadership in this space.
Yeah, really, honestly, it's refreshing to have this point. Obviously, I'm out of the bunch. I'm the one with the esports history. Don't get it twisted. I know Derek plays plenty games, and he's pretty good at them too. So I'm not saying that, and Marcus as well. Although I've seen you on Overcooked recently, so I don't know if that's an esport. But and I'm not putting that down. It's a great way for you to connect with Maddie. But I'm saying that's where my passion point comes from. I do agree everything. Obviously, Eat for Life. We teach digital advertising, marketing. Obviously, we know that, like Derek said, it extends from the gaming industry, right? Like I went to E3, I saw bigger than just the tournaments. You know what I mean? That's what opened the door. But I agree with when you're getting the wrong people. I thought XSET was a great example. I think that Play Versus is great examples. But this is what I'm saying. When we start doing, as Derek said, and it's a fact, we live in capitalism, so he's not wrong. It's about the money, right? It's about the money. And so
I have no problems with people making money. Just be honest about what you're trying to do.
So that's where I'm at.
Be upfront
so
about
that's where
that.
I'm at, right? Like that's where I'm at. It's like, to me, you can't say you're doing diversity and inclusion and then, you know, it's not, it's like Derek said, it's not really there, right? Like it's a front or a fake allyship, whatever you call it, and it's not really there. Like that's because what happens is the outside entities like an ESPN or Sports Illustrated, they just come in on what's the hottest, but we know how it got the hottest wasn't the right way. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't the right way. Like, the reason why Bronny James is on there is because FaZe Clan made themselves the most popular, right? So now the narrative for all the people who come into your program, James, they don't even think about how to be a competitive player, because not one of them people in that magazine was talking about being a competitive player. Not one of them.
Oh, no.
Not one of them.
Mine, in my program, absolutely they come in to be competitive.
I love that. Well,
I've got-
I love that.
No. I've got some who come in who are, and I've seen this too. You'll like this. This summer, I worked with a group. We put on a small camp. I wrote some curriculum. Don't get me started on curriculums. But I wrote a small curriculum built around Rocket League, right? And it was boys and girls. Well, actually, the room was mostly girls. I think there were only 2 boys and the other 6 were girls. And these girls came in and they were just not having it. They were like, I don't even know why I'm here. We introduced them to Rocket League, and I got to tell you, by the end of the week, these girls were out for blood. The competitive spirit was in. And that's where we talk about diversity of opportunity, too, for students. Especially with students with disabilities, right? With physical disabilities. Right. Too often we said, oh, let's give this kid a football and they'll run for a touchdown because he's a senior or she's a senior. And those are. I had my friend CJ Campbell. I did one of my first podcasts I did with him. He has cerebral palsy. He says, just because I have cerebral palsy, don't think I'm any less competitive than anybody else. But there's nothing that pisses me off more than you giving me this disingenuous competitive experience, right? This is the level playing field. Assistive technology. I used to work at a great school called the Code School. It's in Northbrook, Illinois. And I learned all about assistive technology from this lovely woman. Her name is Ruth Miller. I love Ruth. She taught me so much about the use of assistive technology and just how important it is in some people's lives. And I'm telling you, these assistive technology, there's no reason why esports should be anything other than it doesn't matter what your physical ability are, because there are plenty of tools out there that you can. Xbox made an amazing tool to the universal controller that basically you can make your own controller. You can design and build your own control, whatever you need. Logitech's come out with a whole bunch of buttons and stuff. Even if you're playing on a console, Xbox has a feature that you can use that allows you to be, say you're all you can do is push one button, right? You can have a partner co-play with you and control everything else except that one button, so they can control that one button, right? So there's, and again, when we put together our association, we said, you know what, if we're going to make this for kids, again, this is competitive at a scholastic level. We want to make sure that any kid can play. So if it's assistive, a different adapter, a different controller, you need help playing, we're going to make those changes for you. We want to make sure that every kid has an opportunity to play. When we went into COVID lockdown, our public library in town said we will loan you our gaming laptops so that every kid can play. When it was, hey, this family doesn't have internet access, our school district said, well, we're requiring all our students to be online. We're going to put internet access into everybody's home who can't do it. So that way, not only can everybody's student go to school, but everybody can also play. So this is bigger than just what Play Versus does. This is bigger at the scholastic level than I think what anybody realizes, that most people realize. Again, this becomes a way for you to engage your community in a whole different way for kids who a lot of them are on the margins and really starting to make some major strides, I hope. So.
Tell them about the podcast, James, where they can find you, where they can learn more and engage with you. I think that's important for everybody who's watching tonight. We got a lot of people across 3 platforms, so let them know where they can get a hold of you and continue learning more, because you dropped a lot of gems tonight.
Please check me out at the Academy of Esports podcast. You find it on Spotify, most Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere. I'm going to be starting up. I had never taken a season off, we shall say, but this summer I was a little brain dead. So we're starting up. I've got some new guests that are going to be coming up this fall and some returning ones as well, too. So I'm looking forward to a brand new season of the Academy of Esports starting here right around after Labor Day.
Okay, excellent. How about you guys? What do you guys got going on this week? Talk to them.
Tomorrow would be teaching a group of underrepresented first programmers. It's introducing underrepresented groups into coding. I'll be teaching them about the opportunities in gaming and esports and how they can take their software development skills and make sustainable careers through gaming and esports.
Very cool. How about
you? I used to say that Chris Turner was the hardest working man in esports, Marcus, but you might be giving him a run for his money.
He definitely is. He's
one of the biggest hustlers I know, but Marcus, I think you're right up there too.
Versus good competition. Appreciate that.
How about you, D? What do you got going on?
Same old for me this week, man. Just keep pushing, moving the needle.
That's right.
Great episode. Appreciate you coming on, James.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chosen, what do you have going on?
This week we're gonna
You're allowed to say too, right?
This week we're gonna do Canva. So each Monday I do a free training course on skills that you can use to help grow your brand, build out a sales funnel for your products. And this week we're gonna talk about a product I love to my heart, Canva. I love Canva. Some cool tips and tricks you can learn inside of Canva that can help you really amplify your brand, amplify your skill set towards graphic design. I mean, I'm not a graphic designer, and I've definitely made I want to say for sure, I got to check the numbers again, but north of 10 grand this year on graphic design jobs for Gold Standard Gaming using Canva. So, I really love it. I think it is a product. It's a great thing. And I think everybody in today's age where content creation is so important, or making sure your brand stands out is important, I think it's a great way, a free tool that can help you really, really, really separate yourself from, the growing crowd of content creators and influencers and et cetera, et cetera. So, tomorrow, Eat for Life, the sales course. We're doing a free training. Send the link in the chat. But thank you for asking, James. Thank you very, very much. And
it's 11 a.m. Pacific time, not to be confused with 2 p.m. Eastern.
Catches me every time. Yeah, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm on the West Coast now. I'm an East Coaster, but I'm on the West Coast. So, yes, Pacific. Yo, James, thank you for coming through, man. We really appreciate you. Definitely. We can't do it without, and I mean that. Like, even from the passion I came from tonight, I still have just the utmost respect for the educators. And I know how important it is. You know what I'm saying? I just know how important it is. And I'm always going to vie for my competitors, of course. But, just thank you for what you do on a day-to-day. You know what I'm saying? And thank you for coming on and sharing that again with us. So you did it 2 times. Thank you.
Anytime. Have me back anytime.
Yeah,
I'm down.
To have you back. Yo, thank you guys for tuning in, as usual, for your place for free consultation on esports, education, entertainment, and entrepreneurship. It's the E for Life podcast. We're back next week. Shout out to Red Infamy. Shout out to Rich Butler, our general squad. Shout out to James O'Hagan. And y'all be safe, all right? We'll see you on the next one.